Artificial intelligence is not a threat to society. It's not a threat to the educational system. It never has been. In fact, it's an amazing, amazing tool, and it should be embraced by the educational system, not turned away. Artificial intelligence provides students with access to everything, all the information in the world. And I think it's irresponsible not to utilize artificial intelligence and to discourage our students from using artificial intelligence. So I want to talk for a few minutes about the use of artificial intelligence in the educational system and how ultimately it will benefit us. So let me start with a simple idea. AI is not the problem. The real issue is how we define learning. Right now, tools like ChatGPT can generate essays, book reports, and research papers in seconds, and that makes a lot of educators nervous because it looks like students can skip the work. But here's the truth. The problem isn't AI. The problem is that our system measures outputs, not thinking. If a student turns in a perfect paper, we assume they understand the material. But with AI, that assumption no longer holds. So what does it tell us? It tells us we've been measuring the wrong thing all along. We've been measuring the final answer instead of the process that creates it. And that's where AI becomes powerful, because AI doesn't just give answers, it can guide thinking. Used correctly, AI becomes something like a Socratic teacher. It asks questions. Why did the author make this choice? What assumptions are you making? Is there another way to interpret this? Now let's take literature as an example. In a traditional classroom, a student might be asked to summarize a section of Paradise Lost, but AI can do that instantly. So instead, we ask better questions. What does Satan believe he's doing? What is actually happening? Is he a hero in his own mind? Now the student has to think. They have to interpret. They have to engage. And AI becomes a partner in that process, not a shortcut around it. That's the shift we need to make from output-based education to process-based learning. And here's where it gets really interesting, especially for Oregon. This isn't just an educational issue, it's an economic opportunity. We already have companies in Oregon that could lead this transformation. For example, Veneer Science Education builds learning tools and sensors. They could help develop AI-integrated classrooms. Treehouse provides online tech education. They could expand into AI-guided learning systems. CollegeNet works in higher education systems. They could build platforms that evaluate how students think, not just what they submit. And institutions like Oregon State University are already investing in AI and workforce development. Now imagine taking that a step further. AI-powered learning environments, home-based learning systems, even what I've described before as learning pods, where education is personalized, interactive, and constantly improving. That creates jobs, that creates industries, that puts Oregon at the forefront. So the question isn't whether AI belongs in education. The question is this: are we going to use AI to replace thinking or improve it? Because if we use it correctly, AI doesn't weaken education, it upgrades it. And if Oregon leads the way, we don't just improve education, we build the future around it. So for me, I have a master's degree in engineering, and I can tell you this: my education, I saw some absolutely brilliant people lose out. They just got frustrated and quit school. And it wasn't because they weren't capable of learning. It's because what they were learning was just rote memorization. Now, my grade point average was less than stellar. I was not a 4.0 grade point average, but I'll tell you this: my forte, my ability is in the application rather than just the memorization and regurgitation. I mean, people would sit beside me taking tests, and the written test that we would take, we'd say, okay, here, what did you learn? Here's a written test. And they would just regurgitate what they learned. But we had certain instances where the teachers would give us take-home tests. And the take-home tests were always a lot more comprehensive than just the classroom tests, because the instructor knew that you had access to all of the information in the back of the book. So with the answers looking right at you, you had to get creative. Well, I was actually the only person in the class who was creative enough to be able to figure out all of the problems. And you see, what that tells me is if we concentrate on memorization and regurgitation, well, we're going to lose out on people who are very talented, very skilled, but they just aren't very good at memorization and regurgitation. Now, for me, I'm always carrying around a clipboard. I'm always taking notes. And Howard Hughes did the same thing. He was the richest man in the world for a while. So AI, artificial intelligence, it should be utilized in a way that it helps the students. It doesn't take over their learning. It helps with the learning. Now, Socrates and Plato, a long time ago, they absolutely hated the written word. Their way of thinking was, if you have to write it down, then you don't understand it. And understanding was more important to them than memorization and regurgitation. So, you see, now we have all these books and libraries and so forth full of the written word. Socrates and Plato, they probably wouldn't like that. But libraries and books and everything, they are a terrific advancement in the learning process. Now, let's say a research paper is turned in by a student, but the research was done by artificial intelligence. Well, 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, a research paper would have to be done by somebody who actually went to a different part of the world and did the research. Now, you can go to a library and you can read about that person's research and maybe 5 or 6 other people's research, and you don't have to go halfway around the world to live with people and do your own research. You can use their research to help you write your research paper. And artificial intelligence is just basically the same thing as a great big library. And it doesn't just give you the information, it puts the information together for you. And the advantage to that, what you can do there is you can take all the research that has been done, and because you don't have to waste a lot of time reading books and traveling to places, you can actually concentrate on where the research is pointing you, what it means, its intention. So there are 3 aspects to human intelligence: comprehension, retention, and utilization. So you have to be able to read something or look at something. You have to be able to comprehend it. And then you have to be able to retain the information that you've comprehended. Then you have to be able to utilize it. Well, there are situations like with me, I'm not very good at retaining it. I am always writing notes. But when it comes to utilizing the information, I'm a 10 out of 10. I mean, I have found things that there are a lot of engineers in places where I've worked. They'll talk about their grade point average, 4.0 grade point average and everything. And I'll point out stuff that they didn't see. So I think we need to embrace artificial intelligence in the educational system. I think it's going to take us places we didn't know we could go. And if I'm elected as a state representative to the United States Congress, I'll see what I can do about implementing artificial intelligence in the educational system. My name is Thomas W. Timbrooks. I am a candidate for the United States House of Representatives for 2026. I will be a write-in candidate. You just write in the name, Thomas W. Timbrooks, and boom, that'll be your vote for me. In 2028, I'm planning on being on the ballot in 2028. So thank you for listening, and God bless.